Hi, guys. Morning. Morning, everyone. As I think all of you may recall, on May 19th, the State Treasurer reported a dramatic decline of $1.2 billion in our fiscal year 2009 revenues, and an equal amount estimated for 2010. Working with the leaders of the Senate and the Assembly, budget committees, we've made adjustments to our 2009 and 2010 fiscal plans. I think everyone knows our situation was unique. States across the nation, California, South Carolina, to our neighbors in New York, and just recently in Pennsylvania, have been confronted with these kinds of budget emergencies. In fact, I feel confident we've been ahead of the curve in meeting our fiscal responsibilities, while at the same time protecting values, our core values, namely the safety and well-being of our kids, our seniors, and the most vulnerable. We've avoided mass layoffs of public employees, and we've avoided steep cuts to social services and tax increases, avoided tax increases on middle-class families. Our unemployment rate is well below the national average. Our home foreclosures are almost half the national rate, and we're putting people to work with our first-in-the-nation economic recovery program. Today, because of an unprecedented response, and truly unprecedented, to the Tax Amnesty Program that I initiated this winter, a program that began in May and ended on Monday, June 15th. That's Monday of this week. The state has collected unpaid tax revenues that are in far excess of the $200 million the State Treasurer anticipated in his update on May 19th. With thousands of envelopes still to be opened and processed, we've collected more than $600 million, and an amount that exceeds collections from any state amnesty program that we can find in the nation's history. Certainly, this amount is unprecedented in New Jersey's history. As all of you know, we expected to pass the 2010 budget today. However, this extraordinary development, which has been unfolding, by the way, last Friday we had only $200 million collected. That was on June 12th. All of this has happened this week. However, this extraordinary development must be appropriately considered by the legislature. Considering this, the leaders and I both agree that the budget should be recommitted to the Senate and Assembly Budget Committees on Monday, with the expectations of a final floor vote on Thursday, June 25th, a week from today. In that review, and this is the important part, I want to convey in the strongest possible terms my commitment to using these recovered resources to provide middle-class homeowners with much-needed property tax relief. Let me be clear. When revenues fell, the last item we cut was property tax relief. Now that we've recovered some lost revenues, the first thing we will restore is property tax relief. Further, we must not and we will not return to past practices. Today is June 18th, not December 25th. We will not be buying a Christmas tree. The money belongs to the taxpayers, and we're going to give it back to them, property tax relief. To any special interest groups that might want to line up, let me also be clear. I will do everything in my power to make certain that recovered funds are directed to property tax relief. In crafting the fiscal year 2010 budget, we've had to make some very tough choices. A lot of people had to recognize that the greater good was the important point. But all along the way, we've made the right choices to be fiscally responsible and honor our progressive values. We've been ahead of curve on the economy, and now we're breaking new ground, unprecedented ground, in paring down the burdens of the global economic crisis for New Jersey taxpayers, a crisis that was brought on by years of bad decisions in Washington and Wall Street. I'll take 2 or 3 questions and then that.
What about the state surplus, Governor? I mean, how much of this should be going to shore up the surplus rather than rebates?
We have a surplus number included in the budget as it is presented. We think that is adequate, given the size of the budget, and we will stick with that. We think this money should be directed to property tax relief.
Does that mean homestead rebates,
Means that it should go to property tax relief.
school aid, municipal aid?
Property tax relief. I'll be happy to work in and around those kinds of considerations. I believe it ought to go directly.
That means rebate.
Property tax relief, Michael.
No, what about the rest of the revenue?
That's the last one, guys.
What about the rest of the revenue projections? How are they looking? Are they going down the way we've seen, or are they leveling off?
One of the reasons we are comfortable saying let's delay this a week is that each day gives us new information, so we get more information with regard to that. And they're within shouting distance of the projections.
Governor, these extra
Last question.
funds that came in, were these
Last question.
a large group of taxpayers that made up for it?
No, it's actually a fairly wide-ranging group of taxpayers in very different categories. Thank you all.